It was the knock at the door that changed everything, not because it was loud or urgent or even unexpected, but because she almost didn't open it. She had spent months avoiding the world, hiding behind quiet rooms and long evenings that felt heavier than the last. But that day, for reasons she couldn't explain, she turned the handle. And standing there was the first sign that healing doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in small moments, when you least expect them. Sarah had never imagined life like this. Just 2 years earlier, her home was filled with laughter, weekend plans, and the comforting rhythm of everyday life with her husband, Daniel. They weren't perfect, but they were happy. Then one ordinary morning, a phone call shattered everything. The world didn't pause, even though hers did. People said things like, "He's in a better place," or "Time heals all wounds." But none of that made the silence easier. The chair across from her at the dinner table stayed empty, and every little reminder felt like a fresh wound. At first, she tried to stay strong. Friends visited. Family checked in. Meals showed up at her door. But as weeks turned into months, the calls became less frequent. Life moved on for everyone else, and she felt stuck in the exact same moment where she had lost him. She stopped going out. She stopped answering messages. Even simple tasks felt overwhelming. Nights were the hardest. The house felt too quiet, like it was waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. One evening, she found an old voicemail from Daniel. Just hearing his voice made her sit on the floor and cry for hours. She realized then that she wasn't just mourning him. She was mourning the future they were supposed to have, the trips they planned, the jokes they never got to finish, the simple promise of growing old together. Grief wasn't loud anymore. It was quiet, constant, like a shadow she couldn't shake. If you've ever felt that kind of loss, you know how heavy it can be. And if stories like this speak to your heart, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, Inglister Tenstostory, because every story here reminds us we're not alone in what we feel. One rainy morning, Sarah forced herself to step outside for the first time in weeks. She didn't have a plan. She just walked. The air was cold, and the city moved around her like nothing had changed. She watched people laughing in coffee shops, couples arguing about small things, children running through puddles. At first, it made her angry. How could life keep going? But then, as she sat on a bench, something shifted. She realized the world wasn't ignoring her pain. It was showing her that life continues, even when it hurts. That was the beginning. Not a dramatic transformation, just a small crack letting light in. She started taking short walks daily. Some days she cried the whole way. Other days she felt nothing at all. But slowly, those walks became a routine, something that grounded her. She began noticing small details again: the smell of coffee, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of birds in the early morning. One day, she passed a community center with a sign that read, "Volunteer helpers needed." She almost kept walking, but something stopped her. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe loneliness. She went inside and found herself surrounded by people who smiled without asking too many questions. They didn't treat her like someone broken. They simply welcomed her. At first, she only helped with simple tasks, organizing supplies and setting up chairs. But she noticed how helping others gave her mind a break from her own sadness. She met an older woman named Linda, who had lost her sister years ago. Linda didn't offer advice or cliches. She just listened. Sometimes that was enough. Weeks turned into months, and Sarah began to change in ways she barely noticed. She laughed again, softly at first, as if asking permission. She started cooking real meals instead of reheating leftovers. She reopened the curtains in her living room. The house didn't feel as heavy anymore. Still, healing wasn't linear. There were days when grief hit without warning, a song on the radio, a familiar scent, an anniversary date marked on the calendar. She would feel like she was back at the beginning. But now she understood something important. Setbacks didn't mean failure. They were just part of the process. One afternoon, while sorting through old boxers, she found a letter Daniel had written her years ago. In it, he talked about how much he admired her strength and how he hoped she would always chase joy, even when life got hard. She read it again and again, tears falling onto the page. But this time, the tears felt different. They weren't just pain. They were gratitude. That same week, She decided to repaint the bedroom. It seemed like a small thing, but it felt symbolic. She chose a lighter color, something warm and hopeful. As she rolled paint across the walls, she felt like she was giving herself permission to move forward without forgetting the past. One evening at the community center, she met Mark, another volunteer. He was kind, quiet, and patient. Their conversations started simple weather. Coffee preferences, stories about work. There was no rush, no pressure. She felt safe. Talking to him, for the first time in a long while, she felt seen as herself, not just as someone who had lost someone. She struggled with guilt. Was it okay to smile with someone else? To enjoy a conversation without feeling like she was betraying Daniel's memory? Linda noticed her hesitation, and Jenny said, "Love doesn't end when someone leaves. It changes shape." Those words stayed with her. As months passed, Sarah and Mark became friends. They took walks, shared meals, and talked about life. Sometimes they talked about loss. Sometimes they talked about nothing important at all. Slowly, she realized that healing wasn't about replacing what she had lost. It was about making room for new moments alongside the old memories. There was a day when she stood in her kitchen, sunlight pouring through the window, and realized she felt peaceful. Not perfectly happy, not completely healed, but okay. And for the first time, okay felt like enough. She started journaling, writing about her journey and the little victories no one else noticed. The first time she laughed without guilt. The day she danced while cooking. The moment she realized she hadn't cried that entire morning. These small milestones mattered. One evening, she visited the lake where she and Daniel used to sit together. She brought flowers and a quiet heart. Instead of feeling broken, she felt connected. She spoke aloud, thanking him for the love they shared and promising to keep living fully. The wind carried her words away, and she felt lighter walking back to her car. Healing didn't erase the sadness. There were still hard days, but now she understood that grief and joy could exist together. She could miss him deeply while still allowing herself to smile at new beginnings. Eventually, Sarah accepted an invitation from Mark to attend a small community gathering. She was nervous, but she went. She laughed with strangers, told stories, and felt part of the world again. On the drive home, she realized she had gone an entire evening without thinking about how broken she once felt. Time passed, and life slowly rebuilt itself around her. The empty chair at the dinner table no longer felt like a reminder of loss. Instead, it felt like a symbol of love that had once been there and would always be part of her story. One day, she looked at her reflection and saw someone stronger than she remembered. Not because she had forgotten the past, but because she had learned to carry it gently. She understood now that healing takes time, patience, and kindness toward yourself. The truth is, new beginnings don't come with fireworks or clear signs. They arrive quietly in shared smiles, in morning light, in the courage to step outside again. And sometimes, they start with opening a door you almost ignored. If you're watching this and you're in the middle of your own difficult chapter, remember this. You don't have to heal all at once. Small steps count. Quiet days count. Simply getting through today counts. As Sarah's story shows, love doesn't disappear. It transforms into strength, memories, and the courage to keep moving forward. And somewhere along the way, you begin to realize that life can hold both loss and hope at the same time. Before we close, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment that felt like a turning point in your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your story might help someone else feel less alone. And if this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who might need a little hope today. Sarah's journey wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about learning that healing is a quiet process, one day at a time. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened. The memories didn't fade, but they became warmer. And the future, once frightening and empty, slowly became something she could look toward again. As the sun set that evening, she stood by her window, watching the world move outside. She smiled softly, not because everything was perfect, but because she finally believed she would be okay. And sometimes, that belief is the beginning of everything. Thank you for spending this time with English. Until next time, remember, healing takes time, and every small step forward is still progress.